It should be online shortly.
Yeah. Okay. So I just thought. Okay. So I just spoke on the motivation. Now, with that aside, as usual, our topic or the book that we are reading is the Precious Garland to the Supreme Path, and so we have covered almost half of it, I think. And the session or the instruction is also called the book is also known as the Instruction of Gampopa, and so at the present moment we are at the stage known as the 10 pointless deeds. So I think in the book that you have, maybe it says 10 useless deeds. So I have adjusted it to 10 pointless deeds. So here, when we say point, we are referring. So when we go further with the teaching, we will find some of them a little bit awkward. But if you look at it from the spiritual perspective, then it would sit well. But if you look from a worldly perspective, then some of them may not sit well with you. But the point is that this is for someone, for a Dharma practitioner, for a spiritual aspirant, for someone who wishes to liberate oneself from the samsaric lives, from the samsaric cycle, and to do away with suffering, consistent suffering. So for those, if that is your goal, to escape from samsara, to escape from consistent suffering, then these are the point. These instructions should be taken very seriously. So the instruction today, there are 14. Up until now, it's always 10 instructions, but today we have 14 instructions. So this is known as the 14 pointless 14 pointless deeds. So this means 14 deeds that are pointless if you are seriously thinking about jumping on the spiritual bandwagon, or if you are on the spiritual path, then you should think very carefully about whether or not to do those, to commit yourself, to engage yourself in those 14 deeds. So in this case, 14 pointless deeds. So in this regard, point is equivalent, or point refers to Dharma, and less meaning lacking in Dharma, being led away, being misled, going astray, or going away, walking away or walking astray from the dharmic path. That is known as pointless. The point is the Dharma, less meaning lacking or misled or away. So when we say pointless, we are actually saying if you do these deeds, then you are being led away from the Dharma. So Dharma, as many of you know, has many different meanings. The root word of the root meaning of the word Dharma is to uphold, and in this understanding, Dharma is something to uphold. So what do we uphold? We uphold the goodness, we uphold the righteousness, we uphold the virtuousness, and upholding virtue is right, good is something we should be doing. Upholding non-virtuous deeds, upholding non-righteousness, that is that is not appropriate, that is not good. So in this regard, Dharma and Adharma in Sanskrit, which means Dharma and non-Dharma, is to be understood. So in this regard, when we say Dharma, it is spiritual practice, of course, as Dharma, because you are adhering to the, when you engage in spiritual practices, you are adhering to the spiritual code, which is to, the key of which is to better yourself. So when we say better yourself, we are not talking about bettering our image or our physical appearance or things like that. Of course, that is one that is a byproduct of bettering yourself. But becoming a better person, so to speak, is the ultimate goal. From this imperfect state of human being to be led into the perfect stage of human being, perfect stage of Buddhahood, where there is no inch of imperfectness at all. But that is the goal. So therefore, adhering to spiritual practices is adhering to the dharmic or dharma dharmic journey. So therefore, dharma is what is right, and non-dharma is what is not right. So with that understanding, the 14 pointless deeds that we are going to speak about today are the points, are the things that is going to mislead us from the dharmic path, that is going to mislead us, that is going to distract us from the spiritual path, from the dharmic path, from the righteous path. And that is what we have to understand. Oh yeah. So the first point is that the Tibetan, in Tibetan, so to translate that, not recalling the Dharma after being born in the human realm is pointless. It is as returning empty-handed from the island of precious gems. So a human life is incredibly precious. It is precious not only because it is rare, but also because it is highly potential. It has a lot of potentials. It is the human life being one of the 3 higher realms is rare, of course. It's difficult to come by. At the same time, it is highly potential. It has the potential to gain complete enlightenment, Buddhahood, in this very lifetime, if you wish to. Human body, the human life is the only life within the three upper realm or the higher realms that can attain enlightenment in this very lifetime. So because of that, the human life is not only rare, but also highly potential. And because of that, it is very precious. In the Tantra, the human life is likened to a pipe, like a water pipe. So with a pipe, you have 2 holes, one to get in and one to get out. There's no other way out. So as a human being, if you are to practice tantric, if you are to practice tantra, then you will get to the end of it, end of the tunnel or end of the pipe. If you do it properly. Of course, if you don't do it properly, then there's only one way. So there's only 2 ways. One is to exit and one is to enter. So either you will get to complete enlightenment or you will go to wiser hell. This is spoken in the Tantra. The human life is spoken very highly of. So the point here is that after acquiring human life form, which is not easy to come by, which is the human life has the potential to see both the good and bad, has the potential to experience both good and bad in equal measure. because you can see a lot of good things, you are not in, you have the leisure to practice, and you have the leisure to study, to learn, and to practice the Dharma. You have that leisure, not like being born in the animal realm where you cannot understand the Dharma, or you are born in the hell realm where you have no time to practice because you are constantly suffering. But in the human realm, generally speaking, in human realm, you have the leisure to study and practice the Dharma. But if you have the time, but if you have been constantly living in a luxurious life, then maybe you will not be thinking of suffering at all, because you have never known what suffering feels like. So human life is not like that. You suffer a lot in human life, and because of the suffering that you have gone through, you know that you want to get out of the suffering, and you also can reflect. You can empathize with others, that just like I do not want to go through suffering, others are also like me, and the other people also need to be liberated from samsara. So you can have that, and from that aspiration that I, just like myself, others also need to be liberated. From that aspiration comes bodhicitta, and through bodhicitta you can attain enlightenment. Bodhicitta is the key to enlightenment. So therefore, human life is such a precious. Human life is like as the example here says, it is like the island of gems, precious jewels. And if you go there, if you go to the island of gems and then come back empty-handed, then you are a stupid person. So it would be pointless not to recall, practice, engage in the Dharma after being born in the human realm. Now, point number 2. Next is Tongkhor Rinpoche English. That means indulging in mundane household activities after being ordained, after entering the monastic life, is pointless. This is akin to a moth repeatedly jumping into the flames. So the moths, they are attracted to the light, and then they keep coming. They jump into the light, to the lamp, to the flame, and then they burn themselves to death. So this is the example given. So what it means is the reason one becomes a sangha, a reason one enters the monastic life, is to consolidate, put together all of one's potential, to consolidate all of one's potential into one goal, one particular goal, which is a spiritual perfection or enlightenment, if you like. In order to do that, by becoming a monk, by entering the monastic life, you let go of abandon all the household activities, and you gain independence from all this mundane lifestyle, and then you can give yourself 100% to the spiritual pursuit. But if you, after becoming a monk, if you are still stuck in the worldly trappings of accumulating more and more materialistic goods, such as money, fame, power, etc., then you are off the grid, off the queue. So therefore, after entering the monastic life, indulging in mundane activities is pointless. There are some in the Vinaya, which is the monastic code, there are some exceptions given, such as if the monk is if the monk is in heavy debt, if you have a debt to pay, then the monk can engage in business in order to pay off the debt. Or maybe if you are the only person who is taking care of your parent, like there are no other kids, you are the only son or daughter, and you have to look after your relative or maybe your parents who is in advanced age. So there are some few exceptions, but other than that, if you are to engage in mundane materialistic lifestyle after becoming a monk, after entering the monastic life that is pointless, as if moths are jumping into the flame. Now, point number 3 is living beside a Dharma practitioner and not being able to have strong faith, not being able to garner strong faith to the Dharma is pointless, it's useless, it's futile. This is like someone dying of thirst in the middle of ocean. So this example is in the sense that normally when you are thirsty, you drink water, and water quenches your thirst. So if you are in the middle of the ocean, then you are in the midst of water. All around you is water, but that water cannot be drunk. It's not potable. So you are in the midst of water, but that water, and you are dying. You are in the midst of water, but you are dying of thirst. Similarly, when you are with a spiritual practitioner, so this is in the sense of if you live in a monastery, or maybe if you have a guru, but you are not devoted enough, or maybe, let's say there is someone who is a very good practitioner living beside you, maybe as a partner, maybe as your teacher, maybe as a neighbor. But if you are not able to take advantage of that, then this is like someone dying in the middle of ocean of thirst. So there is lots of water lying around, but that water is not being able to quench your thirst. Because the water, the ocean water has actually, the water has actually manifested as salt water, not potable for you. So it is important to, when you are beside a person who is a practitioner who engages in Dharma practices, it is important to take advantage of that situation by learning from that person, or at least by conversing with that person in order to learn more. So there is no harm if you learn. Whatever you learn from that person, if you do not like it, then you don't have to practice it. But you don't know whether you will like it or not if you do not ask. So therefore, when you are beside someone who is a practitioner, it's important to engage in dialogue with them and try to learn as much as you can. And then faith will grow. Then number 4 is So I think this one, as well as the previous one, number 3 and 4, both adheres to the a monastic practitioner, more or less. So the meaning, the translation is that supposedly practicing the Dharma, supposedly sitting, being in part of the Sangha, or being supposedly practicing the Dharma, but at the same time, so if you think you are practicing the Dharma, but at the same time your practices are not able to counter the self-grasping and the 4 root faults that comes from it, then this Dharma practice, even though this is a part of it, you may call it a Dharma practice, this is this is quite futile, quite pointless. So that's why I said in the beginning. So when we say pointless, if you are practicing Dharma, it is not pointless. Of course, it is very meaningful. It is very meaningful thing to do, to practice the Dharma. But what it says here is that if you practice the Dharma, and whatever Dharma practice you are doing is not able to counter your urge to engage in the 4 root faults, or to give in to self-grasping, then this is not this is pointless. So I think this is speaking from a very strictly, very strict practitioner's point of view. For a non-serious practitioner, this would practicing Dharma, doing Dharma practices is of course very is very powerful. It is not pointless. It is meaningful. But from a serious practitioner's point of view, if you are supposedly doing Dharma practices, but if you're not able to cope with the four, your Dharma practices are not able to counter the effects, or your urge to engage in the four root falls, then this is not proper Dharma. So the four root falls actually are for the monks and nuns only, so the even a lay person can have the five lay the vows of the five vows of the lay person. You can take those things, but mostly this is the name that the name four root falls. This actually comes from the Vinaya, which is for the monks and nuns. So the four root falls is killing, stealing, and high lie, we call it, and then sexual misconduct. So by killing, it means to kill a person, a human being. If you kill a god or if you kill an animal, this is not one of the root fall. Of course, it is sinful, but this is not. This does not constitute as one of the four root falls. So killing means killing human being. Even if you are to kill a god, it is not a root fall. So killing means to kill a human being. Stealing means to steal something valuable. If you steal that from somebody and that person is going to feel the loss, that is stealing. Then high lie. High lie is Micholamedzu, we call it. So the high lie is to insinuate that you have high powers, high magical powers, maybe high realization, and so on and so forth, even if you don't have it. If you have it, like for Buddha, he has that, and many practitioners who has that, and if they display their magical power for the faithful ones, of course that is appropriate. But if you don't have it, you don't have the magical powers or special high powers, but in order to gain fame and money, if you insinuate that you have some special power, then this is called high lie. And then the last one is sexual misconduct. So these are the four root falls. It's called the root fall because once the root is rotten, then the tree falls down. So if these fours are broken, then your practices, whatever practices you are supposedly doing, becomes futile. And then we go into a more serious stage here, not only countering the four root falls, but even if your Dharma practices does not shake the root of your self-grasping, which is to think of or believe in the existence of an independent self, then whatever practices you do is also pointless. So this is very serious. We are talking in a very serious point of a very serious stage. We are talking about this. This is more in the sense of an advanced stage, because for normal, generally speaking, doing Dharma practices is not pointless. It is not. It is meaningful. It is not meaningless. It is not pointless. But from a serious advanced Dharma practitioner's point of view, if you supposedly practice the Dharma, but that Dharma practice does not shake your belief in the self-grasping, the existence of independent self, then this is not proper Dharma. So the following 2 points are actually similar to the previous one, number 5 and number 6. Number 4 is specific to monastic life, and number 5 and 6 to general general practitioners. Number 5 is so an instruction that does not help to neutralize the afflictions, the clashes, is pointless, it's futile. This is like a patient carrying a bag full of medicines without taking them. So this is pointless again. And then point number 6 is lame preaching without internal application is pointless. So if you do not practice what you are preaching, then this becomes like a parrot mumbling, a parrot repeating after, whatever the owner speaks. So the parrot has no idea what it's talking about, but it just keeps mumbling. So, we have the phrase parroting in English. So it's like that. So what it says here is that if you do not practice what you are preaching, and if the practices that you are supposedly doing is not able to neutralize, to counteract the effects of afflictions, negative emotions, then this is not a proper Dharma practice. So it's more or less like saying, if you are not able to counteract your negative emotions, then it is not Dharma, but drama. The next is number 7. That means gifting stolen and robbed goods to charity is pointless. This is like soaking leather hides in the water and then just letting it go to waste. So if you steal, if you steal from people, if you cheat people, or if you gain your wealth from ill means, from improper means, then this will not help you to gain merit. So this is what you have to understand here. Like from a worldly point of view, right? We might say, oh, this guy is very smart. He made lots of money by cheating this, he makes a lot of money by doing this and that. So how he made so much money? Of course, by cheating people. So in a worldly sense, this guy may be regarded as a successful person. But from a dharmic point of view, from a spiritual point of view, this person is, making a very big mistake. Because when you talk about spiritual practices, you are not talking about this life alone. We are talking about transitioning from this life not only to the afterlife, but from, when I say this life, we are not talking about this life as in this human life form, but this life as in the life of an ordinary sentient being. From this life, from the life of an ordinary sentient being to that life. So that life meaning the life of a perfect Buddha, a perfectly enlightened Buddha, completely enlightened Buddha, Samyak Sambuddha, the completely enlightened Buddha. So from here to there, from this life to that life. So we are not talking about this human life to another human life, or another. We are not talking about one samsaric life to another samsaric life, but from this ordinary life of misery, confusion, delusion, and ignorance towards life of a Buddha that is completely free from all sufferings and is free from all sorts of obscurations to attain the omniscient state. So this is, in order to do that, if you rob people and give that to charity, this will not help you at all. So point number 7, which we just explained, 7 up to point number 10, 7, 8, 9, 10. They all fall into the same category, the category of utilizing Dharma for utilizing Dharma to have gains in this life. Now, Dharma can be practiced in many forms. In the highest form, which is to gain enlightenment, or to gain self-liberation, or just to have a better life next time, better afterlife. But if you if you do, let's say, a prostration or reciting a mantra or whatever, with the sole intention of acquiring goodness in this lifetime alone, then this is not this does not constitute as Dharma practices. So in this regard, point number 8 is, if you harm sentient beings and then make offerings to the Buddha, to the Triple Gem. So you know, you want to have long life, or you want to have good wealth, or whatever. You pray to the Triple Gem by making offerings of by harming others. You know, you steal from people, you cheat people, whatever, and then you offer that money. That that offering is pointless, because it will not gather. It will not get you virtue. It will not get you. It will not accumulate merit as you conceived. So we will go up to point number 10 with this. Point number 9 is that if you are to practice patience, if you are to practice morality, you know, trying to look like a very good monk or whatever, or a good practitioner or whatever, in order to gain fame and, you know, oh, this is such a good monk, or maybe say, oh, he's such a good practitioner. So if you're doing it for fame and money, wealth in this life, again, this is pointless. So harming others, harming sentient beings, and giving, making donation, making offerings is akin to cutting the flesh of the son and giving that to the mother. Practicing patience or resilience and morality in order to look good in this lifetime is a cat trying to be friend with the mouse. You know, be friendly with the mouse. So there's only one intention for the cat to be friendly with the mouse. He wants to eat the mouse. And number 10 is, in order to gain huge merit in this lifetime, if you are to practice the Dharma, of course, the practicing Dharma is always a good thing, you know. Not killing, not lying, they are all good things. But if you practice the Dharma in order to gain fame in this lifetime, then this is like exchanging a bag of gold with a few pieces of apple, or a few pieces of a handful of grass, or maybe some a tiny plate of food to eat. So it is a futile exchange. Now, point number 11, 12, and 13 deals with hypocrisy. So if you preach something and do not practice what you are preaching, then this is futile. It is pointless. Of course, it's pointless even in worldly life, and then it is certainly pointless in the spiritual realm. The first one is so if your mental state remains in the ordinary stage. So by ordinary here, it means whatever afflictions you have, whatever mental tidings that you are going through in your ordinary state, you know, whatever you have, anger, hatred, jealousy, whatever it is going through, even after learning so much, even after studying the Dharma for so long time, supposedly practicing the Dharma for so long time, if all these remain the same in that ordinary state, then it is futile. The Dharma practice is become futile for you. So from a strictly spiritual, in strict spiritual jargon, spiritual language, this is not a Dharma. This is, again, as we said, drama. And Dharma is when you tackle your mind, your mental tidings. Now, this is the example given here is, this is akin. If your mind remains in the ordinary state, then your practices has become futile. This is akin to a famous doctor being diagnosed with, being sick with chronic diseases. So in order to have chronic diseases, you need to be sick for a long time. And that means the doctor, even though he's such an expert, has not taken care of the illness, whatever illness that he's going through. And number 12 and 13. So 11, 12, and 13, all three of them deals with hypocrisy. Again, number 12. So, though endowed with great instructions, if you do not have spiritual experiences, then that is like a rich person having lost his key to the treasury. Again, point number 13 is if you preach Dharma to others without properly understanding it yourself, then it is pointless. That is like a blind person leading another blind person. Now, the last one, number 14, is so that means regarding superficial experiences as supreme and not focusing on the pursuit of finding the ultimate truth, that is pointless. This is similar to mistaking bronze as gold. So superficial experiences is if you being able to walk on water, maybe eat fire. So this kind of like what we call magical powers or magic tricks or whatever. So in Buddhist practices, these are not regarded as that important, because this can be learned and unlearned. You can learn them and then you can forget them. Even if you learn them, doesn't mean even if you can walk on fire or maybe walk on water or maybe fly in the sky, doesn't mean you can escape from your own demons, your own negative emotions, which will haunt you, even if you are flying or even if you are walking on fire, your mind will still disturb you. So therefore, for a dharmic practitioner, for a spiritual practitioner, the goal is to escape all the way from samsara, and not escaping from samsara means you escape from misery. Even if you escape from misery, even if you escape from negative emotions, but if you have no, it doesn't mean you are in a peaceful state. Of course, you are in a peaceful state in the sense that the negative emotions are no longer disturbing you. But at the same time, you may not have the ability to see the reality. You may not be able to see all things as they are. In that regards, you will not be able to liberate other sentient beings because you have no idea how their mind works. And in order to do that, you have to gain omniscient mind. And in order to gain omniscient mind, in order to attain omniscient mind, which is Buddhahood, you need to clear all the obscurations. So there are two obscurations. We call it afflictive obscurations, and shejejiba, knowledge, obscuration of the knowledge and obscuration of the afflictions. So these two, when these two are cleared, when these two are eradicated, removed, uprooted, then you will not be freed of misery on your own self, but will be able to liberate other sentient beings as well. So instead of walking on this path which the Dharma provides, if you just take out the the glittering aspect of the Dharma, the more glamorous aspect of the Dharma, and then if you think this is the supreme practice, then you are awfully wrong. Oh yeah, so the 14 pointless deeds or meaningless deeds are completed. Now, if you have questions, please If you have question, if you are watching on Facebook, if you have question, you can post it there. Then our coordinator will look at it and then respond. Or if you are joining us on Blue Jeans, you can ask directly or just by putting up texting us in the direct messages. Okay, so I will read it from the chat then. So the first question is prostrate to Rinpoche. In the previous class, you mentioned that one must receive enriched instructions to progress further on the path, just like driving a car. We must fill the car with enough fuel to reach our destination. Can you please explain this in more detail? So the question is regarding to, in order to practice, we need to have lots of instructions, just like you need fuel in order to drive a car. So elaborate on that. So that is the question. So I think I gave an example last week as well, like, you know, some of our classmates and some of our seniors too, like when they were young, you know, just entered the monastery, the energy is very strong, and then, you know, they study and then they learn from the masters, they look after the masters, and they're really inspired by their practice and all that, and then they want to leave the you know, leave the monastery and go into hermitage, go to the mountains and do practices and only practices, and then usually the teachers will always dissuade them, tell them not to go, you know. It's you might think this is funny, because a teacher usually tells the students to do practice and practice and practice, but when the student finally says, I want to go to practice, the teacher actually says, no, don't go to practice. So the thing is, actually, the teachers are also testing our commitment, our will. And you will find the same with lay practitioners. You know, the teacher always says, you know, do Dharma practice, do Dharma practice. But when the lay practitioner comes to the teacher and says, oh, I want to become a nun, or I want to become a monk, the teacher says, no, you don't have to do this. So the thing is, you know, it's more or less like a test, not necessarily a test so the instruction thing. So the teacher usually tells us that don't go right now because you don't have all the instructions ready. In order to, and if you go now to the, because you have just entered the monastery a few years, and you're not armed with all the tools. You're not armed with all the tools to further your practices, to advance your practices. So therefore, once that urge, once that spark of inspiration, or once that spark of intention to practice the Dharma, when that subsides, well, that will eventually subside because you don't have the proper instructions, you don't have the proper knowledge, and then when that subsides, then you will feel discouraged, and then you will actually keep hating the spiritual path. You will keep hating yourself for coming into the mountain and so on and so forth. So the instructions here, all the Buddhist teachings are instructions. So instruction manual means something that gives direct guidelines to how to do this and that properly, right? So all the Buddhist teachings are instructions, but in order to do this, or in order to attain this and that goal, you need this and that instructions. So you need to be able to check out. This is like going to a supermarket. You know, you have all the things there, but you're not going to buy everything in the supermarket, right? It doesn't mean everything in the supermarket is useless as well. Everything in the supermarket is useful for someone. It may not all of them are useful for you today. Today you are going to eat cabbage, tomorrow you're going to eat potato, day after tomorrow it's carrot. So you will take different things you will buy different things from the supermarket. Similarly, all of the Buddha's teaching, this is like a supermarket. You need it one day or another. But in order to gain what goal, what instructions should be applied. That is the main point. And in this regard, the teachers always dissuade the students not to go into practice unless you are very sure. So this is like saying, if you do not know what you have to buy, don't go to the supermarket, because either you will come back empty-handed, or maybe you will buy things that you do not need. And that's what we do many times. Most of the time we go to supermarket, we just buy things that looks nice. So it's important to, we do this, right? Sometimes we have to go to the supermarket, we note down what we need to buy from the supermarket, and then we go, and then we are sure that we can be certain that we got the essentials, what we needed. So similarly, in order to know what you need, you have to study. If you do not study, then you do not know what you need. If you do not know how to cook, then you would not know what ingredients you need to cook a certain food. If you know how to cook, then you know what ingredients you need, and then you can go to the supermarket and buy gather those ingredients. So this instruction is like those those ingredients that you need to buy in order to make a certain food.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
So second question is, you mentioned that put instructions to practice. For beginners, we have received a list of instructions, but we have not perfected any of them. How can we prioritize these instructions to avoid getting too greedy or overwhelmed? So how to prioritize all the instructions that we have received? So that is the main question. Now we have to go from basics. His Holiness always tells us, His Holiness, wherever he goes, he tells the introduction to Buddhism. Because we have been stuck with so much of these advanced teachings, of course, tantric practices, tantrayana is such a advanced practice. It is very powerful and all that. But it is advanced and powerful only if you are able to cope with it, if you are able to take it, if you are able to utilize the way it is supposed to be, and it should be. Otherwise, it becomes a burden for you. So, like it's like a knife. If you are a great chef, you can use that knife to, cut vegetables and do good things, to serve thousands of people good food, delicious food. But if you, that knife can also be a source of harm if it's in the hand of a criminal. It can kill somebody, so on and so forth. So just like that, advanced practices by themselves can be advanced. But if you are not there yet, if you're not at that level, then those practices, instead of those great practices becoming beneficial, helpful, it becomes harmful to you. So in this regard, always go to the basics. So the basics are refuge. Refuge, sometimes people think refuge is very easy, right? I take refuge to the Buddha, or to the Dharma, to the Sangha. Sounds very easy, but not very easy if you look at it carefully. Because in order to take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, to take refuge means to rely on somebody. So will you rely on somebody if that person is not reliable? No. You will rely on somebody only if that person is reliable. So in this regard, you have to know that Buddha is a reliable person. So how do you know Buddha is a reliable person? How do you know Buddha has never lied, never cheated, never done any harm? This is reflected upon the teachings that the Buddha gave, what he spoke. So you cannot read people's mind. You have to understand from what their actions are, what their speeches are. So the Buddha's speeches remain in today's, even the Buddha himself, physically no longer here, his speeches remain in the form of Dharma. So if you look at the Dharma, it's very beneficial. So we know that Dharma is beneficial. And if you know that Dharma is beneficial, if you know Buddha is no longer there is no way we can rely on Buddha. He's no longer physically here. And the Sangha are there, but they are on their own, right? Sangha can be of assistance, but the Sangha cannot bring us, bring us out of samsara, just like that. So the only method of bringing ourselves from, getting ourselves out of this mess is Dharma alone. So here the importance of Dharma comes. So now you know, oh, Buddha taught this precious doctrine called the Dharma, which is liberating, which liberates us, which frees us from our misery, and so on and so forth. Now I understand this. Now I can rely on Buddha because he spoke such eloquent, he spoke such important, he gave such an important lesson, he gave such an important instruction for us to be liberated. And now, okay, he says so many nice things, but he is a good person or not? We cannot tell, right? We can tell that Buddha is a good person by the fact that, even though, like from an ordinary term, from ordinary point of view, he's a prince, so he doesn't have to go out and become a monk, and he doesn't have to leave the palaces. He has all the things that he wants. All the he can, when it's hot, he can go to the cool place. When it's cold, he can go to the hot place. He has all the servants, and the wives and the wealth and everything he has. But then he chose to give all that up and then strive for the path to liberation, so that he can teach that to us. So this tells us that Buddha is not only wise, but also compassionate. So therefore, now we can rely on the Buddha. Buddha is very wise because he tells us how to get out of samsara. Buddha is very compassionate because he doesn't sit alone in meditation, sit in a cave meditating for, without, by cutting contact with us. He's among us, he lives with us, he comes to us and teaches us in very simple terms. To those who can to the unordained, to the uninitiated, he teaches in very simple form. To the advanced practitioners, he teaches the most advanced methods as well. So in this regard, when you think like that, oh, Buddha is a reliable person. Then you rely on Buddha. If you cannot rely on Buddha, you cannot take refuge in Buddha. Refuge means to take protection from you, right? To take to take Buddha as a sanctuary. So in order to do that, you need to know Buddha is safe, Buddha is reliable, Buddha can save you. So in this regard, even taking refuge is such a great step. So there's a line His Holiness made. So it basically means in order to gain, so he actually explains this in the, this is the importance of refuge. It's not that easy. In order to gain refuge, you have to know, as I said earlier, you have to know that Buddha is a reliable person. So how will you know Buddha is a reliable person? Because he teaches us the right from wrong, right? So right from wrong, that is the Four Noble Truths. There are true rights and true wrong in Four Noble Truths. Suffering and its causes is wrong. Nirvana and its path, cause, is right. So right from wrong. So Buddha teaches us that. And these right and wrong is fundamentally based on reality. This is not something Buddha made up. Buddha didn't think, wake up one day and said, okay, let's call this suffering. And from now onwards, people will suffer. From now onwards, people will be liberated. It's not like that. Even before Buddha came, there is suffering, there is misery, there is caused misery, and all that there. So this is all based on fundamental, basic reality. So first, you have to know the reality. Once you know the reality, you will be able to discern what is right and what is wrong. And that is all taught by the Buddha. So therefore, the Buddha and his teaching and those who follow him are the ultimate refuge. So this is what the line is about. So in this regard, first, in order to get proper Gampopa, proper refuge, it's very, very difficult. Then once you get that, then you can, depending on, you may have received many teachings, many lineages, from many lineages. So you can the thing is, once you have proper practice of proper understanding of Gampopa Refuge, then if you have proper understanding of Refuge, then as I said, you know what is right from what is wrong, what is right from wrong, and you also know the basic reality of phenomena. So your understanding of Refuge is not childish. It is not rudimentary. It is quite advanced. Now, when you are in that stage, when you have the proper Refuge, then you will be able to know what practices you should be doing and what practices you should not be doing at that particular moment. It's just like the supermarket analogy I just give. You need all of the things in the supermarket at one time. Maybe not today, but tomorrow you need it. So all the instructions you alternate, or you do it on the basis. So if you feel like cooking rice, then you go and buy rice. So similarly, if you have affinity towards medicine Buddha, then you practice medicine Buddha. If you have affinity towards Chenrezig, Avalokiteshvara, you do that. If you do not feel like you are a practitioner of gods or deities, you don't feel like doing that, okay, don't do that. You don't have to do Avalokiteshvara or any god, any deity practices. You don't have to do that at all. Just think of compassion, loving kindness and compassion. We all need love. We all feel love. So we can practice on that. And then once you get good at that, then you can jump to perfecting your wisdom and so on and so forth. Okay, so next question is, prostrate to Rinpoche. Knowledge is good. Knowledge is a good thing, but sometimes it becomes a kind of knowledge obscuration is a problem. How do you eradicate or uproot this obstacle? Thank you. Okay, so the problem with knowledge is so there's it reminds me of one quote from the Alvin Toffler, an American writer. So he said one time that he said the illiterates of the 21st century, the illiterate of the 21st century is not those who cannot write or read, but rather those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. Learn, unlearn, and relearn. So what happens is, usually because of 21st century, because of the technology and all that, we have so much information, unlike before. Back in the day, back in the old ages, old time, there are not many books to read and so on and so forth. Only few people are knowledgeable and so on and so forth. Nowadays, all the people have so much information. You can just look up in YouTube or Google, or all the information is out there. And because of that, everyone has so many fragmented informations, which they think they are knowledge, myself included. Because we have Google just in our hand, we can look up information, and then we think like, oh, we know this thing. So what happens is we bring those baggages of knowledge, the so-called knowledge, the baggages of information. We bring those knowledge, those information that we have received somewhere, we have seen somewhere, and then think this is knowledge. And then we bring that, and based on that knowledge, that information we have, we see everything else from that light. In modern terms, it's called judgmental. We judge everything through these glasses, the shade that we wear. So Alvin Toffler was saying, to learn, to unlearn, to learn something new, and to unlearn what you have learned before. Because when you learn something from someone, you learn it from their perspective. So this may or may not be the whole truth. So there are many things you have to unlearn. And then you have to, once you unlearned the untruth, you learn the truth. When you unlearn the untruth, then you have to relearn in order to fill the empty space of what you have learned, the untruth that you have learned. So in this regard, in the Buddhist text, we call this meaning three faults of the listener. Three faults of the listener. So always on the beginning of the text it says so meaning though listen with the when you listen, when you study, when you learn with humility, learn with impartiality. Yeah, impartiality comes only if you are humble. If you think you know everything, then there's nothing you can learn more. I think I gave this example before. So if I have this cup of this glass of water. So if I put anything into this, let's say I'm putting milk into this, right? If I put milk, the milk will be very light milk. It will be very adulterated because it's mostly full of water. In order to drink a cup of milk, I need to remove all the water in here and then learn and then fill it up with milk. Then I can have one full glass of milk. So the problem with knowledge is that you think whatever little information that you have is the whole truth, the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So this is something that we, so in order to change that, you have to be humble. You have to be very sincere, very humble, very truthful, and very impartial. Only then you can learn, and only then the knowledge can become an advantage instead of being a disadvantage. I mean, this is what is happening in the world, right? Like everybody, I mean, so many news channels are portraying different newses. The news channels are not really reporting the truth. I mean, it's selective truth. They highlight a truth that you like to hear. The same goes with a lot of commentator on online commentators. People just put out their views. So if you know this, okay, they're saying what they think it is, that they think is the truth. If you think this is the ultimate truth, then big problem. If you think they're saying what they think is the truth, then you can learn a lot of things. You can learn from A, B, C, D, E. You can learn from everyone from A to Z. But if you think A is the only truth, then there's nothing you can learn from B, because A is the only truth and only that is spoken by A is the truth. So if you think A is speaking from A's experience, B is speaking from B's experience, and so on and so forth, then you can learn from all the 26 alphabets, A, B, C, D, like that. So this is this is how you take knowledge as an advantage and not as a disadvantage.
And the little, what is it? Learn, unlearn.
Relearn. Okay, so this basically means
learn, unlearn, and relearn.
Yeah. So learn is to gather information. Unlearn is whatever information you have gathered may not be the truth, right? Because it may be the complete picture, but it may also be 50% of the picture, half the picture, or 75% of the picture. So that means whatever untruth you have learned about a particular situation, particular incident, you have to unlearn it. You have to remove it. So this is like first, this is like removing the water. If you want to get a full cup of full glass of milk, then you have to remove the water first. Then you can fill it with milk. So the unlearning the part is removing the water so that you can fill it up with milk. Relearn is, of course, to fill it up with the correct information. Yeah. So first learn, first gather the information, then whatever is not correct information, you remove those things. That is the unlearning process. And then fill it up with the correct information. Then this is the relearn part. Got it?
Yes.
Yeah. So Miss Yen, there's a question you're reading?
Okay, so there's a question in Vietnamese and I'll read it in the English. Dear teacher, ordinary people who commit 4 root negative actions will suffer negative karma. How can those karmic effects be dissolved? And if we can, how can we resolve them? Thank you.
Okay. So yeah. So for ordinary, okay. So for those who are not ordained, then even if you kill someone, of course this is a sinful act, but this does not constitute as a root downfall. The four root falls, right? So if you are not a monk or a nun, then this is not a root fall for you. So the thing is, it is a sinful act, but this is not in this does not contradict with your vows, because you do not have a vow. So usually for monks, if you commit to killing a person, it becomes double negative deed. One is because you kill someone, it's a sinful act, and another is because you pledged, you vowed that you will not kill someone, so you killed it, so you've broken the promise you have made to the Buddha. So it's double sin. For ordinary people, there is no such thing. By ordinary, I mean those who are not monks or nuns, who have not taken the vows. If you have not taken the vows, then this is not. It's a sinful act, but you don't have to worry about how to recover it, because you have not taken it in the first place. So for monks, this is called a root fall, because once you broke these, it's like the root of the tree. If the tree or the root of the tree starts to rot, then the tree will eventually fall down. So similarly, if these four rules, it's called a root downfall, because if these fours were broken, then the tree will fall down. Then you will no longer be an ordained person. You will no longer be a monk or nun. So there's no recovery. You cannot recover it. You can purify the negative karma of killing someone, but if you kill someone, you cannot recover the vow of not killing someone. That vow cannot be recovered. It's only one time in one lifetime. Generally, in order to purify any negativities, we usually do what is known as the four powers. The literal translation of it's called the four powers. It's also known as four powers of confession, or four forces of confession. So the first one is we call that the power of support, the power of regret, the power of resolve, and the power of action, or power of counteractive action. So the first is power of support. So support here means Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So you have to rely on the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha to purify. The power of support. Second is known as the power of regret. You have to repent what you have done. If you kill someone, you have to regret, oh, I did something wrong. If you think it's right, then it will not help. So if you have to think it is wrong, and you must regret for that. And then the number three is a power of resolve. You have to resolve yourself not to do anything of that nature. Okay, so from now onwards, I will not kill anyone. You have to make that resolution, the power of resolve. And the fourth is do things that is counteractive to what you have done before. So if you have killed people, in order to counteract that, you have to help people. If you have stolen from people, to counteract that, you have to give money to people, like that. So doing counteractive measures, taking counteractive measures, not only physically, but from mentally as well. These four powers. Okay, so I think we stretched our time a little bit. So it's over 2 hours now. So let's stop here for today. And so the questions that you have put forward, I have taken note of them, and we'll get to those questions next week, the first thing next week. Okay. So thank you very much, everybody. Yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for your kind attention and for your dedication to the Dharma. And now let's dedicate this, the merits that we have gained today from engaging in Dharma, for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Và thường nghĩ rằng là
Sorry, please. Yewa di nyu do na lama ye wa ji yang ma ye wa ye ye sa ye wa Chang ru sem cho ren bo che ma ye ba na ma ye yu ye ba nyam ba me ba ra ye mo ba ye me en ze ve de chen chen che me ge Boy, boy, come, boy, get on, come, noise, noise, shalom, I'm boy, John. Boy, can't on. Boys on. Dembe Nimbo, Dembe Bengashi, Naman, Garaj, Lozan, Juye,
Có lúc khi mà on không?
Chắp tay lại này.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you Rinpoche. Thank you everyone. Xin
Bye.
cảm ơn mọi người nhé. Good night. Have a good day. Thank you Rinpoche. Bye bye. Còn đây là chúc